All right, welcome to this exclusive explainer. If you are a current or aspiring FIFA technical director, academy manager, or a coach educator, you are in the exact right place today. We're going to be unpacking an absolute masterclass in elite player development, all based on the FIFA Training Center course, School vs. Academy, Japanese Soccer Success. Today, we're exploring exactly how Japan built one of the world's most successful and, honestly, most unique football development systems out there. And they did it by creating multiple player pathways, rather than just relying on the traditional academy route. So if you're looking for an innovative, proven blueprint for inclusive and sustainable football development for your own member association, you are absolutely going to love this.
Okay, let's dive into this by throwing a massive question out there, one that really challenges the bedrock of youth development. Does every single future professional player actually need to come through a professional academy? For a really long time, the global consensus has basically been, well, yeah, of course. But today, we are completely challenging that belief. The reality is, great footballing nations don't necessarily have to depend on just one single pathway. The secret is creating multiple opportunities for talented players to develop, no matter where they start their journey. And honestly, Japan is the ultimate gold standard case study for this.
So, here is our roadmap for today's 5-part masterclass. First up, challenging the academy myth. Second, Japan's multi-pathway ecosystem. Third, the power of schools. Fourth, united in competition. And we'll wrap it up with number 5, some highly actionable lessons for football leaders.
Let's jump right into Section 1, Challenging the Academy Myth. It is time to question the status quo.
Think about most countries around the world for a second. The elite youth player is almost exclusively playing for and developing inside an academy that's attached to a professional club, right? That is the accepted single pathway model. But then, look at Japan. Over there, talent emerges simultaneously from a truly decentralized ecosystem. You've got players coming up through schools, universities, little community town clubs, right alongside the professional academies. It is a completely stark contrast. Basically, instead putting all their developmental eggs in one basket, Japan recognized early on that there are incredible players hiding way outside the professional club bubble. So they built a system specifically designed to capture that exact talent.
So how exactly is this web put together? Let's move to Section 2, Japan's multi-pathway ecosystem.
To really anchor this part of the discussion, I want to bring in a quote from someone who absolutely knows what they're talking about here. Takeshi Ono, the assistant technical director at the Japanese FA, sums it up perfectly. He says, "In Japan, we have a unique elite player pathway." And he would definitely know. Ono is a FIFA technical leadership expert heavily responsible for youth development and coach education over at the JFA. What he's really pointing out here is that their system is intentionally designed to be different from the rest of the globe. It's built specifically to maximize opportunity and to minimize that tragic loss of late bloomers or kids who just happen to live outside the major urban centers.
So, let's break this ecosystem down. It basically splits into 4 distinct pathways. First, you have your professional academies, and they serve that traditional direct club development role we all know. But right alongside them, you have school programs providing incredibly high-level, education-based coaching. Then, you've got university football, which acts as this amazing safety net for late-stage collegiate development. And finally, community or town clubs that focus heavily on localized talent cultivation. The sheer beauty of this setup is that every single one of these 4 pathways has the proven ability to produce players for the Japanese national team. When you offer multiple routes, you increase participation. And you know how it goes. A wider net casts a much stronger national football system.
Now, a huge part of why this actually works is deeply, deeply rooted in history. Let's dig into Section 3, the power of schools. Let's move to and see how this builds, because this system definitely didn't just happen overnight. Historically, football in Japan started purely in the schools, driven entirely by passionate volunteer teachers. But here is the real secret sauce. Decades prior to Japan even having a professional league, these teacher coaches were already out there earning advanced professional coaching licenses. So by the time the J-League officially launched in 1995 and pro academies started popping up, school football already had this massive, highly educated foundation in place. And today, that historical tradition hasn't been wiped out by modernization, not at all. It coexists, creating this fierce, super healthy competition between schools and clubs. We really need to pause and emphasize the sheer caliber of this school environment. Japanese school teams often boast absolutely incredible facilities, but way more importantly, they are led by highly qualified teacher coaches. Listen, these aren't just your standard educators who happen to supervise a kickabout on a Friday afternoon. These are elite coaches holding professional licenses. They view coaching as a very serious discipline. And when you combine that level of expertise with this immense, deeply ingrained culture of school pride, where these schools absolutely refuse to back down against a professional club, you create an environment where high schoolers are genuinely formidable rivals to pro academies.
Now, you might be wondering, doesn't this create a totally fractured system, a turf war? Well, that brings us to Section 4, United in Competition.
The defining characteristic of this whole Japanese model is that schools and professional academies do not see each other as enemies. There's no turf war here. They operate with this mutual understanding that they are cooperating towards one single national objective: developing better football players for Japan. The Japanese Football Association acts as the glue here, making sure that collaboration, rather than working in completely isolated silos, is the real engine driving their long-term success. It's one unified ecosystem.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is exactly how they take that concept of cooperation and make it a reality on the pitch. Enter the U18 Premier League. Historically, school teams and club academies never really played each other in official competitions, but through a massive collaborative effort, they built an integrated, mixed competition league where elite high schools, pro academies, and even the promoted small-town clubs all compete together in the exact same format.
And the makeup of this top youth league is just staggering. Look at this. In a 24-team league, there is a perfect 50-50 balance. Literally half the league is professional academies, and the other half is high schools and town clubs. It is absolute, undeniable proof that educational institutions, when they are given the right coaching education and respect, can step onto the pitch and go toe-to-toe with well-funded professional academies week in and week out.
When you force these totally different football environments to clash and test themselves against one another every single weekend, you get a massive cascade of benefits. It raises the overall playing standards across the board because you constantly have different tactical styles and philosophies colliding. It creates vastly superior talent identification opportunities too. I mean, scouts can literally watch a polished pro academy center back try to defend against a gritty, incredibly fit high school striker in a high-stakes match. It challenges every single player regardless of their background. And crucially, it prevents complacency. It forces both the academy directors and those teacher coaches to continuously innovate and improve.
So, what does this all mean for you? How do we take Japan's unique culture and turn it into practical applications for your own member associations? Let's get into our final section, Lessons for Football Leaders.
So the crucial point is, here is your strategic playbook. First up, build multiple pathways. We've got to stop relying on just one single route. Start creating real opportunities through amateur clubs, universities, and schools. Next, build partnerships. True collaboration between your FA, local schools, the government, and the clubs is always going to create vastly better outcomes than everyone working in isolation. Third, and this is a big one, invest heavily in coach education. Player development is strictly bound by coach quality, right? So elevate your school teachers and community coaches by giving them real access to high-level licenses. And finally, create inclusive competitions. Find ways to merge these different development environments on the pitch. That is how you drive up motivation and standards.
I want you to take a really hard look at your own ecosystem right now. Think about the real-world scenarios happening in your association. What happens to the late bloomers if you are only investing in pro academies? What if your school football structure is currently weak and neglected? How much raw potential are you just leaving on the table? If a deeply talented kid lives out in a rural area, miles away from a pro club, where is your unseen talent hiding? Japan's model teaches us a vital lesson. The most successful football nations actively build safety nets and alternate routes to capture that exact talent.
I am going to leave you with this provocative thought as we wrap up this explainer. If you were stepping in to lead a player pathway in your member association tomorrow morning, what specific area would you further develop, and why? Would you try to bridge the gap between your local schools and clubs? Would you completely overhaul your youth league formats? Ultimately, great football development isn't just about building a few elite, shiny academies. It's about designing a complete, inclusive ecosystem that maximizes every single player's potential, no matter where they happen to start their journey. Thank you so much for joining me for this masterclass, and good luck building the future of football in your region.